I smiled at Marcus across the conference table, watching his face turn red. He thought he'd won. He thought firing me in front of the entire executive team would break me. But I knew something he didn't. Something that would cost him everything. Let me back up. My name is Daniel Chin, and 3 months ago, I was the Chief Operations Officer at Technova Solutions, a software company in Seattle. I'd worked there for 8 years, building systems and processes that kept everything running smoothly. Marcus Webb had been CEO for only 6 months, brought in by investors who wanted aggressive growth. From day one, Marcus made it clear he didn't like me. I was too careful, too focused on sustainability. He wanted flash and speed. He started undermining my decisions in meetings, cutting my budget, and excluding me from important discussions. I knew he was building a case to fire me. But here's the thing about being CEO. You see everything. You know where every body is buried. And I'd been keeping records. The day Marcus fired me started like any other Tuesday. I arrived at the office at 7:30, coffee in hand, ready to review the quarterly operations report. My assistant, Jenny, looked nervous when I walked past her desk. "Daniel, Marcus wants to see you in the main conference room." "Now," she whispered. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. That's when I knew. I grabbed my tablet and walked to the conference room with my head high. Inside, I found Marcus sitting at the head of the table with our CFO, legal counsel, and HR director. The setup was clear. This was an ambush. "Daniel, thanks for joining us," Marcus said with a fake smile. "We've been reviewing company performance and we've made some difficult decisions. Effective immediately, we're terminating your employment." The room went silent. I looked at each person, watching them avoid my eyes. Everyone except Marcus, who stared at me like he'd just won a championship. "I see," I said calmly. "May I ask why?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying himself. "Your performance hasn't met our standards. The company needs a different direction, someone more aligned with our growth vision." I nodded slowly, buying time to think. "I'd like to see the documentation of my performance issues." "That won't be necessary," Marcus said quickly. "We're offering you 3 months severance. Sign the papers and you can leave quietly." Our HR director, Patricia, slid a folder across the table. Inside was a severance agreement with a non-disclosure clause and a non-compete that would prevent me from working in the industry for 2 years. "You're giving me a terrible severance package and trying to kill my career," I said flatly. "That's your offer?" Marcus shrugged. "You should have thought about that before you became a roadblock to progress. Sign it or leave with nothing. Your choice." I looked at the papers, then at Marcus. "I need 24 hours to review this with my lawyer." "You have until 5 o'clock today," Marcus said. "After that, the offer disappears." I walked out of that conference room and went straight to my office. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From anger and anticipation. I'd been preparing for this moment for 2 months. I locked my door and opened my personal laptop, the one I'd been using to document everything. I had files organized by date, category, and severity. Every suspicious decision Marcus had made. Every corner he'd cut. Every rule he'd bent or broken. The company's financial controller, David Park, had come to me 6 weeks ago with concerns about some unusual transactions Marcus had approved. Payments to a consulting firm that didn't seem to do any actual work. Marcus had ordered David to process them without the usual approval chain. David was scared. He didn't want to lose his job, but he also didn't want to go to prison if something illegal was happening. So I told him to document everything and send me copies. He did. I also had emails showing Marcus had lied to the board about customer retention numbers. Messages where he told the sales team to hide customer complaints. And records of him approving bonuses for himself and his friends while cutting benefits for regular employees. I spent the next 3 hours organizing everything into a clean, detailed report. Timeline, evidence, impact on the company. I made it impossible to ignore or dismiss. Then I did something Marcus never expected. I sent it to the board of directors. Not through official company channels that Marcus could monitor. I had personal email addresses for 3 board members. I'd built relationships with them over the years, back when Marcus was still climbing the corporate ladder somewhere else. The email was simple. "Dear board members, I was terminated today without cause. Before I leave, I believe you should know about activities that may put the company at legal and financial risk. Please find detailed documentation attached. Respectfully, Daniel Chin." I hit send at 2:15. Then I packed my personal items into a box, said goodbye to Jenny, who was definitely crying now, and walked out of Technova for what I thought might be the last time. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and waited. The call came at 6:30 that evening. It was Helen Zhao, the board chairwoman. I'd worked with her on several projects over the years. She was tough but fair. Daniel, I received your email. So did Richard and Thomas. We've been reviewing your documentation for the past 3 hours, she said. Her voice was tight, controlled. Can you meet with us tomorrow morning? 8 o'clock. And bring your lawyer. I'll be there, I said. Daniel, this is serious. If what you're saying is true, we have a major problem. But I need to know. Is everything in that report accurate? Can you prove all of it? Every word is true. Every document is real. I have backups of everything in 3 separate locations, I said. Helen was quiet for a moment. Marcus told us you were let go due to performance issues. He said you'd been fighting necessary changes and creating problems with other executives. That's a lie. And I can prove it, I said firmly. Tomorrow at 8. Don't be late. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept going over everything in my mind, making sure I hadn't missed anything. My lawyer, Tom Kim, called at 7 in the morning. I'd sent him everything the night before. Daniel, this is explosive, he said. If even half of this holds up, Marcus is done. But you need to be prepared. They might try to blame you too. Make you the scapegoat. I was careful. Everything I did was legal and documented. I was protecting the company, not hurting it, I said. Good. Let me do most of the talking today. Just answer their questions honestly and directly. Don't get emotional, Tom advised. We met at Technova's headquarters at 7:45. Helen, Richard, and Thomas were already in the private conference room. Marcus wasn't there. We haven't informed Marcus of this meeting, Helen explained. We wanted to hear your side first. Walk us through everything. For the next 2 hours, I did exactly that. The suspicious consulting payments. The falsified customer numbers. The hidden complaints. The self-dealing bonuses. The retaliation against employees who questioned his decisions. Richard, who served as the board's audit committee chair, looked physically ill by the time I finished. How long has this been going on? The consulting payments started 4 months ago. The other issues began almost immediately after Marcus became CEO, I said. Thomas, the newest board member, spoke up. Why didn't you come to us sooner? I tried. I sent concerns to Marcus first, following proper channels. He dismissed them and told me to stay in my lane. Then I noticed he started building a case to fire me. I realized if I went to the board without solid evidence, he'd just say I was being vindictive. So I gathered proof first, I explained. Tom jumped in. My client did everything correctly. He documented concerns, tried internal channels first, and only came to you when those channels failed. He's actually protected this company from significant liability. Helen looked at me directly. Marcus fired you yesterday. He told us it was performance-based. Now you're here with evidence that he's been committing fraud. This looks like retaliation. Because it is retaliation, I said simply. The board members looked at each other. Helen spoke first. We need to investigate this immediately. Richard, can you get our external auditors involved today? Already texted them. They're clearing their schedules, Richard said. Thomas, call legal. We need outside counsel on this, not just our internal team, Helen continued. She turned to me. Daniel, we're putting you on paid administrative leave while we investigate. That's not a punishment. It's protocol. We need to do this properly. I understand, I said. And Daniel, the severance agreement you were given yesterday is void. Marcus didn't have authority to terminate you without board approval for a C-level position. That's in our bylaws. He violated company policy, Helen said, and I saw anger flash in her eyes. Tom smiled slightly. So my client is still employed? Technically, yes. Though we need to sort out exactly what that means, Helen said. Give us 1 week. We'll move fast on this. As Tom and I left the building, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Oh, the next week was torture. I couldn't go to the office. Couldn't talk to my former team. Couldn't do anything but wait while the board investigated. Jenny called me on day 3. Daniel, something's happening here. External auditors showed up this morning. They've been in Marcus's office for hours. He looks panicked. Don't get involved, Jenny. Just do your job and stay quiet, I warned her. Everyone's asking where you are. Marcus told people you quit. But David from finance says you were fired. Nobody knows what's true, she said. The truth will come out soon, I told her. On day 5, Tom called with news. The auditors found everything. The consulting firm receiving payments doesn't exist. It's a shell company. The money was going to Marcus's personal account. Over $400,000 in 6 months. My stomach dropped. He was literally stealing from the company? Yes. And it gets worse. Those customer numbers he reported to the board? Completely fabricated. Real retention was down 15%, not up 10% like he claimed. The company is in much worse shape than anyone knew, Tom said. On day 7, Helen called me directly. Daniel, can you come to the office tomorrow morning? 10 o'clock. We're having a board meeting and we'd like you there. My heart raced. What's happening? Marcus has been terminated. We've filed a report with the authorities about the fraud. And we need to discuss your future with Technova, Helen said. The next morning, I dressed carefully in my best suit and drove to the office. People stared as I walked through the lobby. Word had clearly spread that something major was happening. In the boardroom, all 5 board members were present. Marcus's chair at the end of the table was empty. Daniel, thank you for coming, Helen began. First, I want to apologize on behalf of this board. We failed in our oversight duties. We didn't see what Marcus was doing until you showed us. You saved this company from catastrophic damage. Richard nodded. The external audit confirmed everything you documented. Marcus Webb has been terminated for cause. We've recovered some of the stolen money, and law enforcement is pursuing criminal charges. He'll likely go to prison. Thomas spoke next. We also discovered that Marcus violated multiple company policies when he fired you. The termination was invalid and we believe it was retaliation for you discovering his fraud. What does that mean for me? I asked. Helen smiled for the first time since I'd known her. It means you're still employed. It means you're owed back pay for the week we kept you out. And it means we want to offer you something. She slid a folder across the table. Inside was a contract. I read the title and my breath caught. Interim Chief Executive Officer. We need someone who knows this company, who has integrity, and who can stabilize things while we search for a permanent CEO. That's you, Daniel, Helen said. The board vote was unanimous, Richard added. We want you to lead Technova through this transition. 6-month contract initially, with the possibility of making it permanent if things go well. I looked at the salary figure. It was triple what I'd made as COO. I looked at the terms. Full authority to make operational decisions. Direct report to the board. No interference. When would I start? I asked. Today if you're willing. I signed the contract right there. By noon, I was sitting in the CEO's office, Marcus's former space. HR had already cleared out his personal items. The desk was empty except for a computer and phone. Helen stayed to help with the transition. We're announcing this company-wide in an hour. We'll be honest about what happened. Marcus is gone due to serious misconduct. You're stepping in as interim CEO. We won't share all the details, but employees deserve to know their company is in good hands. What about the executive team? Some of them were Marcus's allies, I said. We're reviewing everyone's involvement. If anyone knew about the fraud and didn't report it, they're gone too. But that's for the investigation to determine. Your job is to stabilize operations and restore trust, Helen said. At 2 o'clock, the company-wide announcement went out. By 3 o'clock, my email was flooded with messages. Most were supportive. Some were shocked. A few were clearly from people worried about their own involvement with Marcus. David from finance came to my office at 4. Mr. Chin. I just wanted to say thank you. For believing me when I brought you those concerns. For doing something about it. You did the right thing coming to me, David. That took courage, I said. Is it true Marcus was stealing money? He asked quietly. I can't discuss details of an ongoing investigation. But yes, serious misconduct occurred. You're not in any trouble. Your documentation helped expose it, I assured him. Over the next few days I worked 18-hour shifts. Meeting with department heads. Reviewing projects Marcus had started or canceled. Assessing the real state of the company's finances and operations. It was worse than I'd feared. Marcus had been so focused on looking good to investors that he'd neglected actual business fundamentals. Customer satisfaction was down. Employee morale was terrible. Several major clients were considering leaving. I called an all-hands meeting on Friday. Every employee gathered in the main auditorium or joined via video. I stood on the stage and looked at faces I'd worked with for years. I know this week has been chaotic and confusing. I want to be direct with you about where we are, I began. Technova is facing challenges. Some are because of decisions made by previous leadership. But we're going to fix them together. I spent 30 minutes outlining my priorities. Rebuild customer relationships. Restore employee benefits that Marcus had cut. Return to the quality standards that made Technova successful in the first place. Focus on sustainable growth, not just fast growth. I need to be honest, the next 6 months will be hard. We'll need to make some difficult decisions. But I promise you this. Every decision will be made with integrity. Every choice will be explained. And I will never lie to you about where we stand, I said. The applause started slowly, then built. People stood up. I saw tears on some faces. These were employees who'd been demoralized and scared. Now they had hope again. After the meeting, my executive team gathered in the conference room. The same room where Marcus had fired me 2 weeks earlier. Okay, let's talk about what's real and what's fixable, I said. CFO, give me the actual financial picture. Our CFO, who'd been hired by Marcus, looked nervous. We're not in great shape. Marcus approved spending we couldn't afford. We're burning through cash reserves faster than revenue is coming in. How long before we run out of money? I asked. 4 months. Maybe 5 if we're lucky. The room went silent. This was even worse than the auditors had found. What are our options? I asked. Our general counsel spoke up. We could do layoffs, cut costs dramatically. Or we could seek additional investment, but that means giving up equity and control. I thought about this carefully. Neither. We're going to fix our customer problems first. Happy customers mean revenue. Revenue means we survive. We start there. I assigned each executive specific customer accounts to personally manage. We were going to rebuild relationships one client at a time. No excuses, no delays. Over the next 2 months, I worked harder than I ever had. I personally called our top 50 clients. I listened to their complaints. I fixed their problems. I showed them that Technova was serious about quality again. Slowly things started to improve. Clients stopped leaving. Some even expanded their contracts. Revenue stabilized, then started growing. Employee morale improved too. I reinstated the benefits Marcus had cut. I created new channels for employees to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. I promoted people based on merit, not politics. 3 months into my term as interim CEO, Helen called me to her office. The board met yesterday. We want to talk about your future. My stomach tightened. Okay. We've decided not to conduct an external CEO search. We want to offer you the position permanently. Full CEO, not interim, she said. I was speechless for a moment. Really? Daniel, you've done everything we hoped and more. The company is stable. Customers are happy. Employees trust leadership again. Financial projections show we'll be profitable again next quarter. You've earned this, Helen said. But I've only been doing this for 3 months. Shouldn't we wait longer? I asked. Richard, who was also present, laughed. Most CEOs don't accomplish in a year what you've done in 3 months. You've proven yourself. The board vote was unanimous again. We want you. I thought about everything that had happened. Being fired. Fighting back. Exposing Marcus. Rebuilding the company. It felt like a lifetime compressed into a few months. I accept, I said. But I have conditions. Helen raised an eyebrow. Go on. First, I want to implement stronger oversight systems. What happened with Marcus can't happen again. We need better checks and balances, I said. Agreed. What else? Helen said. Second, I want to create a whistleblower protection program. Employees need to know they can report concerns without risking their jobs. David came to me about Marcus because he trusted me personally. That shouldn't be necessary. There should be formal systems, I continued. That's excellent. We should have had that already. What's third? Richard asked. I want equity in the company. Not a huge amount, but enough that my interests are aligned with long-term success, not just short-term results. And I want the same equity opportunity available to all senior leaders. We build this company together or not at all, I said. Helen smiled. Done. Anything else? One more thing. Jenny, my former assistant. I want her promoted to executive assistant to the CEO with a significant raise. She was loyal when it mattered. That deserves recognition, I said. Consider it done. Welcome aboard, officially, CEO Chin, Helen said, extending her hand. The official announcement went out the next day. The board publicly confirmed me as permanent CEO. The press release mentioned my 8 years with the company, my successful turnaround as interim CEO, and the board's confidence in my leadership. What the press release didn't mention was Marcus. The criminal investigation was still ongoing. The board had decided to keep those details private until legal proceedings concluded. But I heard through Tom that Marcus's life had completely fallen apart. The fraud charges were serious. He'd hired an expensive lawyer, but the evidence was overwhelming. He was looking at significant prison time. His wife had filed for divorce. His friends in the industry had abandoned him. Companies he'd worked for in the past were reviewing his tenure for potential misconduct. His career was destroyed. Part of me felt satisfaction. He tried to ruin me, and instead he'd ruined himself. But mostly I just felt tired. The fight was over. I'd won. Now came the harder work of building something lasting. Jenny brought me coffee one morning, a few weeks after the permanent CEO announcement. "Still feels weird calling you CEO Chen," she said with a smile. "You can call me Daniel when it's just us," I said. "No way. You're the boss now. The real boss." "I'm going to be professional," she said, but she was grinning. "How are people feeling?" "Really?" I asked. Jenny sat down, which I'd encouraged her to do. I didn't want a formal, hierarchical relationship with my team. People are happy. Like genuinely happy. It feels like the company we used to work for before Marcus showed up. People trust leadership again. They feel safe. "That's huge," she said. "Good. That's what matters," I said. Over the next 6 months, Technova continued to improve. We landed 3 major new clients. Employee retention increased. Our best people stopped looking for jobs elsewhere. We even started recruiting top talent from competitors. The financial turnaround was dramatic. We went from 4 months of cash runway to being profitable. Our revenue grew 20%. Investors who'd been nervous started expressing confidence again. And Marcus? His trial was scheduled for the following spring. The prosecutor expected a guilty verdict based on the evidence. He was facing 5 to 10 years in federal prison. One afternoon, about a year after Marcus had fired me, I got an unexpected email. It was from Marcus's personal address, not his old company email. "Daniel, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to say something. I'm sorry. What I did to you was wrong. What I did to the company was wrong. I was arrogant and stupid. I thought I could take shortcuts and nobody would notice. I was wrong about everything. You deserved better. The company deserved better. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I understand what I did and I'm sorry. Marcus." I read it 3 times. Then I closed it without responding. Tom, my lawyer who'd become a friend, asked me about it when we met for lunch. "Are you going to respond?" "No. He doesn't get closure from me. He doesn't get to feel better by apologizing. He made his choices. Now he lives with them," I said. "That's cold," Tom said, but he was smiling. "Maybe. But I don't owe him anything." "I never did," I said. The anniversary of my firing came on a Tuesday, just like the original day. I thought about marking it somehow, but then decided against it. That day was the past. This was the present. Instead, I focused on the future. We were planning a major product launch, expanding into new markets, building partnerships with companies that had previously ignored us. At the weekly executive team meeting, David from finance presented updated projections. If we maintain current growth rates, we'll double revenue in 18 months. Triple in 3 years. We're on track for something special. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, I cautioned. Sustainable growth, remember? We're building for the long term. But privately I was proud. We'd not only survived Marcus's fraud and mismanagement, we'd come back stronger. Helen stopped by my office that afternoon. "The board wanted me to tell you something. We did a full analysis comparing company performance under Marcus versus under you. Every metric is better now. Customer satisfaction, employee engagement, financial performance, market position. Everything." "That's good to hear," I said. "Daniel, you didn't just save this company. You made it better than it ever was. That's rare. Most turnarounds just return to baseline." "You exceeded it," Helen said. That night, I allowed myself a moment of reflection. I thought about the day Marcus fired me. How humiliated I'd felt. How scared I'd been about my future. I thought about the choice I'd made to fight back. To document everything. To report what I'd found. It would have been easier to just take the severance and leave quietly. But I hadn't. I'd stood up. I'd told the truth. And it had cost Marcus everything while giving me everything. There's a lesson in that. Powerful people think they're untouchable. They think their position protects them. They think they can abuse others without consequences. Sometimes they're right. But sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes the person they underestimate has more power than they realize. Sometimes documentation and truth are stronger than authority and position. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. But I'd learned it well. The company continued to thrive. 2 years after becoming CEO, we were considering an IPO. Our investors were eager. The market conditions were right. Technova had transformed from a struggling company into an industry leader. At the celebration dinner for our latest major product launch, I gave a speech to the assembled employees. 3 years ago, this company was in crisis. We'd lost our way, but we found it again. Not because of one person, but because of all of us. Because we chose to do the hard work of rebuilding. Because we chose quality over shortcuts. Because we chose integrity over convenience. Thank you for believing in this company. Thank you for believing in each other. The applause was thunderous. These were people who'd stayed through the tough times. Who'd trusted me when I asked them to. Who'd worked hard to make Technova successful again. Marcus's trial had concluded 6 months earlier. Guilty on all charges. He'd been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His lawyer had asked me to provide a character statement for sentencing, suggesting leniency. I declined. Some people thought that was harsh. But I remembered the day he fired me. The look of satisfaction on his face. The way he tried to destroy my career. The arrogance that led him to steal from the company we'd all worked to build. No, he'd earned every year of that sentence. Today, Technova is valued at over $2 billion. We employ more than 500 people. We serve clients across 3 continents. And it all started the day Marcus Webb thought he could fire me and get away with it. He underestimated me. He thought I was just another employee he could discard. He didn't know I'd been paying attention. He didn't know I'd been documenting everything. He didn't know I had the courage to fight back. That was his biggest mistake. Jenny still works with me now as chief of staff. David is our CFO. Many of the people who trusted me during the turnaround are now senior leaders. We built this together. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how things happened. If I wish Marcus had never fired me, that I'd just stayed as CEO. The answer is no. Being fired was the best thing that ever happened to my career. It forced me to stand up. It gave me the opportunity to lead. It showed me I was capable of more than I'd imagined. Marcus tried to end my career. Instead, he ended his own and launched mine into a trajectory I never expected. That's how I turned my firing into the CEO's biggest regret. Not through revenge, but through competence. Not through destruction, but through building something better. And every day I walk into Technova headquarters, I remember that success isn't about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being the most prepared. The most ethical. The most resilient. Marcus learned that lesson too late. I learned it just in time.